Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Sanandaji, and I am a native New Yorker born to Iranian and Israeli parents. As the daughter of an Israeli mother, I would visit Israel almost every year for my entire life, and last summer was no different. I flew to Israel to attend a friend's wedding and ended up extending to be with friends and family for the holidays. And then I found myself at the Nova Festival. My friends and I arrived at the festival at around 1 a.m. At around 3 a.m., we decided to take a break from the dancing and rest for a few hours. Our plan was to sleep and wake up ready for the festival sunrise set. However, at 6:30 a.m., instead of waking up to the sound of the sunrise set music, we were woken up by the sound of rockets. One of the girls from our campsite alerted us to what was going on and said, "Good morning, guys. I just want you to know that a few rockets have been intercepted overhead. But it's fine. It's normal for the area that we're in. It'll probably just be a few, it'll pass, and the party will continue." Try to imagine anywhere else in the world where people are at a festival and rockets are intercepted over their heads and they react in such a calm manner. That simply wouldn't happen. But unfortunately for Israelis, this is their reality. Rocket fire is something they deal with on a semi-regular basis. As the rocket fire continued, the festival security shut off the music and asked everyone to please evacuate to their cars. My friends and I got in our car and tried to start driving away. But we were stuck in traffic, and after a while, the festival security asked everyone to please get out of their cars and start evacuating by foot. At first, we couldn't understand why they would tell us to run from rockets. It didn't seem to make much sense. But after a few moments, we heard the first sound of gunfire. And we understood that what we thought was just rockets was much more, that there were terrorists on foot and they were coming after us. At that terrifying moment, I entered a state of shock. Being in a state of shock and disassociating, I think, was my mind's way of trying to protect me from the intensity of what was happening. For most of the time when we were running from the terrorists, it felt as if this wasn't happening to me. It felt as if I wasn't there. It felt as if I was having an out-of-body experience. Upon hearing the gunfire, me and my friends started running, and we ran for hours on foot. We had no way of knowing what direction was the direction of safety. We had no idea of knowing if turning left or right was going to get us killed or save our lives. A few months into the war, someone came up to me at a vigil I spoke at in Columbus Circle, and he said he had seen many of my interviews, and he said that he saw that I had a hard time answering one of the main questions I was getting asked, and that question was, how did you know what direction to run to? How did you know what direction was the direction of safety? And he told me that he had interviewed many Holocaust survivors in his life, and when Holocaust survivors were asked in life and death situations how they knew what decision to make, they coined a term called a choiceless choice. And the meaning of a choiceless choice is that in those life and death situations, you don't have time to try to figure out and try to understand what decision is the best decision, what decision is going to get you killed or save your life. But in that moment, you just have to make a choice. And that perfectly describes every choice we made while running from the Hamas terrorists. After about 4 hours of running, we didn't hear gunshots for a few minutes, and we decided it was a good time to sit under this little tree that we saw and get some shade from the sun and catch our breath. We then noticed a pickup truck driving towards us, and our automatic reaction was that this was a terrorist coming to kill us. I remember me and my friends sitting under this tree, we all had this instinct and we all kind of half got up and contemplated running from what we thought was a terrorist. And then we all kind of simultaneously realized we have nowhere to run to. If this is a terrorist coming to kill us, they have guns, they're in a car, we're on foot. And I just remember everyone sitting down and kind of smiling and nodding at each other as if to say goodbye, as if to say, it was nice knowing you, and kind of accepting our fate. We looked at each other with half smiles, but luckily for us, this wasn't a terrorist. This was a man from a nearby town, the town of Patish, who left the safety of his town and drove towards all of this danger to save the innocent lives of people that he didn't even know. As soon as he drove us to his town, he dropped us off, and I didn't even have a moment to get his name and to thank him. He turned right back around, and he went to save more lives. And I didn't have the honor of meeting him until months later. I tracked him down, and I found out that him and his son drove back and forth for about 8 or 10 hours that day from their hometown to the festival grounds, and they saved about 300 to 400 lives that day. For me and so many others, October 7th represents a personal and profound loss. The loss of loved ones, the loss of a sense of safety and belonging, and the loss of the simple freedom to gather and celebrate our heritage without fear. Though I was at the festival on that day and ran for my life for hours on end, I didn't understand the magnitude of what happened until I finally got home and started hearing reports on the news. When the news reports first broke, I was devastated, as we all were, but I was also determined. I was determined to ensure that the world saw the human face behind this tragedy, the vibrant lives that were stolen, the families torn apart, and the community left reeling. That is why just 4 days after the attacks, I began speaking out, sharing my story and putting a name and a face to these startling statistics. A week after the attacks, CAM's CEO, Sasha Reutemann, who we just saw on the big screen, reached out to me after seeing a few of my interviews and asked me to go to DC and share my story with senators and other government officials, and I gladly accepted. About a week after that, Sasha reached out again, offering me a position on CAM's team, giving me the opportunity to share my personal story while also fighting anti-Semitism on a global level. So often, the victims of anti-Semitism become nameless, faceless symbols, a tragic data point rather than a human being with a story to tell. But we can't allow that to happen. That is why the work of this summit and the work of organizations like the Combat Antisemitism Movement are so important. By elevating the voices of survivors, activists, and allies, we reclaim our narrative. We show the world that we're not just victims, but resilient, defiant, and unbreakable. I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you in this room for being a voice for the Jewish people. Your platforms, your reach, and your commitment to this cause are invaluable. And I'm honored to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you in this critical struggle. We have an incredible night ahead of us, and I really just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of you for being a voice and for making sure people don't forget what happened on that day. So thank you all for being here, and